The law offices of Steinberg, Katz, and Associates occupied the top 3 floors of a Manhattan high-rise, all dark wood and leather-bound books that probably hadn't been opened since the Clinton administration. I sat in the waiting room, black dress impeccable, tissues untouched in my purse. Grieving widow was the role they expected. I'd give them something else entirely. Mrs. Hamilton? The receptionist's voice was professionally sympathetic. They're ready for you in conference room A. I stood, smoothing my dress, and walked into the lion's den. They were all there already. Richard Jr., my stepson, sprawled in his chair like he owned the place. His wife Brittany, dripping in diamonds Richard's trust fund had bought. My stepdaughter Caroline, at least pretending to look sad, and her husband Dale, who was already eyeing the Rolex on his wrist like he was calculating its resale value. Veronica. Richard Jr. didn't stand when I entered. None of them did. So nice of you to finally join us. I was 3 minutes early, but I didn't point that out. Instead, I took my seat at the far end of the table, opposite Gerald Steinberg himself, the senior partner who'd handled Hamilton family business for 40 years. Now that we're all here, Gerald began, adjusting his glasses, we can proceed with the reading of Richard Hamilton Sr.'s last will and testament. Finally, Richard Jr. muttered. How long does it take to read? Everything goes to my children. Brittany tittered. Caroline shot him a look, but said nothing. She'd always been the smarter of the two, which wasn't saying much. Before we begin, Richard Jr. announced, I think we should discuss practical matters. Gerald paused, papers in hand. Practical matters? About her. Richard Jr. didn't look at me. 32 years old, and still couldn't make eye contact when being cruel. Dad's widow. I have a name, I said mildly. Yes, well. He waved a dismissive hand. We all know why you're here. Dad was lonely after Mom died. You saw an opportunity. We get it. No judgment. No judgment. I raised an eyebrow. How magnanimous. Look, he leaned forward, finally meeting my eyes. Let's cut through the BS. You were married to my father for 3 years. You're what, 35? 39. Whatever. Point is, you knew what this was. And were prepared to be generous. Generous, I repeated, tasting the word like wine. Do tell. Richard Jr. smiled, the same smile his father had worn when closing deals that crushed smaller companies. The prenup limits you to the Miami condo and a modest monthly allowance. But we're willing to go beyond that. Because you're generous. Because we're practical. Caroline finally spoke, her voice like silk over steel. The will reading is really just a formality. Dad told us years ago, everything goes to his children. The company, the properties, the investments. All of it. But, Brittany chimed in, fingernails clicking on the table, we know Daddy Hamilton had a soft spot for you. So we'll throw in some of Mother Hamilton's jewelry. The pieces the family doesn't want, of course. Of course, I murmured. Give her some jewelry and send her away, Richard Jr. told Gerald, as if I wasn't sitting right there. Trophy wives don't get real assets. They get parting gifts. It's how these things work. Gerald Steinberg cleared his throat. It was a small sound, but it filled the room like thunder. Are you quite finished, Mr. Hamilton? Richard Jr. straightened. I'm simply trying to expedite. You're trying to rewrite your father's will based on your assumptions. Gerald's voice was dry as parchment. Perhaps we should deal with facts instead. He opened the folder before him, pulling out a document I knew by heart. Every word, every clause, every carefully constructed paragraph designed for this exact moment. The last will and testament of Richard Morrison Hamilton Sr., Gerald began, dated 6 months ago, superseding all previous versions. 6 months. Caroline frowned. But Dad's been sick for. Your father was of sound mind when this was drafted, Gerald interrupted. I can provide the medical documentation if needed. Now, shall I continue? Silence. To my son, Richard Hamilton Jr., Gerald read, his voice carefully neutral. I leave the sum of $1 to be paid from petty cash. This is not an oversight or error. This is an intentional bequest representing the exact value of the respect you've shown to those you consider beneath you. The room exploded. What? Richard Jr. was on his feet. That's impossible. Check again. I've checked, Gerald said calmly. Several times. Shall I continue? This is insane. Brittany shrieked. $1? $1. To my daughter, Caroline Hamilton Morrison, Gerald continued as if no one had spoken. I leave the sum of $1 to be paid from petty cash. May you someday learn that kindness costs nothing, but is worth everything. Caroline had gone very pale. There must be some mistake. No mistake. Gerald turned the page. To my beloved wife, Veronica Mason Hamilton, I leave the remainder of my estate in its entirety, including but not limited to Hamilton Industries and all subsidiary companies, the real estate portfolio, all investment accounts, and personal effects. No. Richard Jr. slammed his hands on the table. This is fraud. She manipulated him. He wasn't in his right mind. Actually, I said, speaking for the first time since the reading began, he was perfectly lucid. Would you like to see the video? All heads swiveled toward me. Video. Dale spoke for the first time, his calculating look replaced by panic. Your father insisted on recording the will signing, I explained. He wanted to ensure there were no misunderstandings. You manipulated him, Caroline said, but her voice lacked conviction. You're nothing but a cocktail waitress who got lucky. Paralegal, I corrected. I was a paralegal when I met your father. At this firm, actually. Gerald, would you like to tell them, or should I? Gerald's lips twitched in what might have been a smile. Mrs. Hamilton graduated from Harvard Law, summa cum laude. She worked here for 5 years while caring for her sick mother. Your father met her when she was assigned to review his contracts. Harvard Law. Brittany's voice was faint. That's impossible, Richard Jr. said. She's a trophy wife. Dad told us. Your father told you what you wanted to hear, I interrupted. Because it was easier than confronting your prejudices. Yes, I'm younger than him. Yes, I'm attractive. But did any of you ever wonder why a successful businessman would marry someone without doing due diligence? Silence. I drafted this will, I continued. Every word, every clause. Your father insisted on it. He wanted to make sure it was ironclad. Then it's invalid. Richard Jr. grasped at straws. Conflict of interest. Actually, no. Gerald pulled out another document. Mr. Hamilton had the will reviewed by 3 independent firms. All confirmed it was not only legal but brilliantly constructed. Mrs. Hamilton could have given herself much more favorable terms. Instead, she initially tried to ensure you both received substantial inheritances. Initially, Caroline caught the word. Your father changed his mind after Thanksgiving. I kept my voice level, though the memory still stung. Do you remember that dinner? When Richard Jr. referred to me as the help and suggested I eat in the kitchen. When Caroline's husband asked if I was earning my keep with a wink. When Brittany tried to steal my mother's ring. The one she's wearing now, actually. Claiming it was a family heirloom. Brittany's hand flew to the ruby ring on her finger. That's Mother's ring. Caroline protested. No, I said quietly. It was my mother's ring. A gift from my grandmother, who survived the Holocaust with it sewn into her coat. Your father gave it back to me for our anniversary. Brittany took it from my jewelry box during Thanksgiving. Prove it, Brittany said, but her voice shook. I pulled out my phone, swiping to a photo. The inside band is engraved. To my Rachel, may you always find light in darkness. Love, Bub. In Hebrew. Gerald leaned forward. Mrs. Morrison, if you would remove the ring? I thought it was. Brittany pulled off the ring with shaking fingers. Gerald examined it, then nodded. The inscription matches. This is theft. It's a misunderstanding, Dale said quickly. Like the misunderstanding when you tried to transfer money from the joint household account? I asked. The one your father-in-law set up for emergencies? I have those bank records too. You've been spying on us, Richard Jr. accused. I've been protecting your father's interests. There's a difference. I stood, gathering my purse. Your father loved you both. Despite everything, he loved you. But love and enabling aren't the same thing. This won't stand, Richard Jr. threatened. We'll contest it. You'll spend everything on legal fees. With what money? I ask simply. Your trust funds were dissolved 2 years ago when you tried to have your father declared incompetent. Remember that? The court case you lost? The one where the judge called your claims baseless and motivated by greed? Both children had gone silent. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. Hamilton Industries will continue to thrive. The charitable foundation your mother started will be fully funded again, something you both voted against last year. And I'll honor your father's true wishes. Which are? Caroline asked bitterly. To leave you both with what you earned. I moved toward the door. Nothing. You earned nothing. Not his love. You had that for free and threw it away. Not his respect. You never tried to earn it. Not his legacy. You wanted to strip it for parts. You can't do this, Richard Jr. said, but the fight had gone out of him. I can. I have. It's done. I paused at the door. Your father's memorial is next week. You're welcome to attend. But security will be present. Try to behave like the people he hoped you'd become, not the ones you chose to be. Veronica, Gerald called as I reached for the handle. There's one more thing. I turned back. He held up an envelope. Your husband left you a personal letter. He asked me to give it to you after the reading. I took it with steady hands, though my heart was racing. Thank you, Gerald. No, he said quietly. Thank you. Richard was my friend for 40 years. You made his last 3 the happiest I'd ever seen him. I left them there, Richard Jr. and Caroline staring at their single dollars, Brittany clutching her bare finger, Dale calculating losses that would never be gains. In the elevator, I opened Richard's letter. His handwriting, shaky but determined, filled the page. My dearest Veronica, if you're reading this, then you've just watched my children learn what I've known for years, that you are, and always were, so much more than they could see. They called you a trophy wife. In truth, I was the trophy husband. What man wouldn't be proud to stand beside a woman who graduated Harvard Law while caring for a dying mother, who speaks 4 languages, who gave up a promising career to help me run my companies, who treated my bitter children with more grace than they deserved. You tried to convince me to leave them more. You said I'd regret it. But my only regret is that they never saw what I saw. A brilliant, kind, ambitious woman who chose to love a difficult old man and his ungrateful children. The money is yours. You earned it, not in the way they think, but through every contract you reviewed, every negotiation you led, every investment you guided. Hamilton Industries succeeded these last 3 years because of you. But more than that, you earned it by showing me that love isn't about age or beauty or wealth. It's about seeing someone clearly and choosing them anyway. They saw a trophy. I saw a treasure. All my love. Richard. P.S. Don't let them guilt you. The $1 bequest is an old legal tradition to prevent will contests. You drafted it perfectly. I just provided the signature. I folded the letter carefully, tucking it into my purse next to the tissues I hadn't needed. Then I walked out of Steinberg, Katz, and Associates into the Manhattan sunshine, the newest CEO of Hamilton Industries, with work to do and a legacy to honor. Behind me, in conference room A, 2 trust fund babies were learning what their father had known all along. I was never the trophy. I was the prize they couldn't afford.